Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone is soaking wet. She's just been in the river. The donkeys, I don't know if you can hear them, are having a good time. Guys, this is Saturday's episode, 222, to you, of the Spurs Walk Show. Shall we call it that? Please do me a favour, guys. Smash the like button for me. Smash the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's video and all future videos. Lot to get through over the next 15 minutes. So we're going to start off with some transfer news, views and clues. And then from there, we're going to pivot into Daniel Levy's comments from the first fan committee, whatever it was called. And obviously we have Postecoglou, Ange's introduction video, which we'll mention briefly as well at the end. Let's get into it. First and foremost, goalkeeping news. Nothing to really update you on David Raya since yesterday's video. There's been no movement. He is, of course, still Tottenham's first choice. However, there are links today emerging for Seville goalkeeper, Moroccan international Yassine Bounou, or Bounou. 32-year-old, valued at £30 million. Very competent, very capable goalkeeper. You might remember him from his penalty heroics in the World Cup for Morocco. I think it was in the quarters or maybe the last 16. I think it was against Spain. My memory escapes me, but I do recall him basically keeping out the entire opposition's all 5 penalties. Not one of them went in, or 4 penalties it must have been. 3, I'm not sure. But whatever happened, he saved every single one of them, and it was wonderful to see. The guy as a player apparently is incredibly likable, a real very smiley, happy-go-lucky character, brilliant in the dressing room. He speaks English, which is important. What I would also say is he is incredibly hard-working. He's very prepared, not just for penalties, where he studies the more likely scenario of where people are going to hit the ball, but also for games. He watches the body language and tries to understand if there are tells from the way that players shape up to be able to assist in his preparedness for games. Very intelligent guy, hard-working, and tries to maximise whatever information is out there as a way to improve his numbers, improve his ability to do well at his job, which is all very interesting. Hi guys, how you doing? He's also, look, a brilliant shot stopper, brilliant agile keeper. Gets down to his left, gets down to his right. From memory, I haven't seen too much, but from memory, I think he's fairly good in the air, can come and collect crosses and things. But one thing I'm not convinced on him about is his ability to play as a sweeper keeper. I don't think I've seen that much of him doing that sort of thing for Seville. I could be wrong, correct me if I am. And consequently, I'm not also too confident on his ability to distribute the ball with the same track record, the same success, the same metrics as some of the other guys we're looking at. Obviously David Raya for me fits the bill. £40 million seems to be the stumbling block. We spoke about the value proposition of paying it anyway yesterday with this guy from Seville. He's made comments saying he's not entirely sure of his future. They're going to sit down and figure it out, and maybe that's part of the reason why there are links that are emerging. Plus, of course, separate news to this but entirely linked, Bryan Gil, in various reports this morning, is available for sale by Tottenham, but they want to get back the £30 million that they net paid for him to Seville. And so there are rumours that maybe it could be a cash plus player swap deal. Seville get to keep Bryan Gil, we give them more money, and the two players change clubs permanently. Look, I said to you yesterday, Monchi is not exactly like my most favourite director of football. I don't think he's got a brilliant track record in what he's done. However, what he has done very well is take advantage of Tottenham with regard to Bryan Gil and Eric Lamela, you know, making us pay £25 million and giving them Bryan Gil and Eric Lamela in the process. Absolute madness. And look, for all intents and purposes, whilst I would love Bryan Gil to come back to Tottenham if he's committed to the club, I get the vibe that maybe he doesn't think he wants to come back to a struggling team where he's unhappy in London, wasn't getting the minutes. Now that he's a Europa League winner, I'd imagine he wants to get out of Dodge. So I personally don't have a problem with Yassine Bounou. I like him as a goalkeeper. He's not my first choice. clearly David Raya is. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. But if it comes down to dollars and cents, and it usually does, maybe, just maybe, there is a plan B in that regard. For what it's worth, there is another name which we haven't really mentioned on this channel. He hasn't really been linked with us, but for me, he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. And using the Y-Scout tool, you saw me do it the other day in live real time. When you slide up the filters and get to the kind of creme de la creme of every particular metric of what a goalkeeper is needed to do, Diego Costa is insane. Like, every other goalkeeper eventually just gets cropped out. They all just end up being filtered out by as you turn up the dial on every particular metric. He is number one in basically everything. He is available for 65 million apparently. Manchester United have prioritised him now because they see more value in paying 65 for him rather than 40 for Raya. And I don't disagree. I love David Raya. I don't think Tottenham are going to pay 65 million for a goalkeeper. Remember, Costa is 23 years old as well, I think, so you've got a goalkeeper there that is already at the top of his game and could be for the next 15 years if he stays healthy. So, an interesting turn of events that's emerging. Maybe David Raya will come to Tottenham because Manchester United are going to go in a different direction. It is what it is, but if Daniel Levy was feeling generous and like he felt punchy for the day, then I'd have absolutely no issues with him going and testing the resolve, speaking to Costa's agents, because that guy is different levels as well and does everything that we need to do in a goalkeeper, much like David Raya. Anyway, moving away from goalkeepers, let's take out and turn our attention back to centre-backs. I've spoken quite a lot about Victor Nelsson on the channel. He is still linked heavily with Tottenham. Arsenal are now joining the race for the man who I have described on this channel as phenomenal with the ball at his feet. His long ball accuracy is out of this world. He's very good in the air. He's a little bit rash, a little bit kind of exuberant with his willingness to slide in. It's not always a problem. It wasn't a problem for Christian Romero in his first season for Tottenham, as long as the timing's correct. Personally, for me, he's a right-footed, right-sided centre-back, or can play in the middle of a back three, which isn't quite as necessary. It's not been used by Postecoglou very often. So, if we do go after Victor Nelsson, and it's about a 20 million euro release fee, then I would imagine that he would come in and be in competition for Romero, competition for places, which is fine with me, because in my mind I think we need 3 new centre-backs. I think we get rid of everybody with the exception of Ben Davies, who can be competition for both the left-sided centre-back and also the left-back role. He can be that utility player. But everybody else, Rodon, Dyer, Longley, Sanchez, Tanganga, to me they can all go, and then we bring in 3 new centre-backs to compete with Christian Romero. Victor Nelsson can be his side on the right, and as far as the left, even Football.London today were talking about Aymeric Laporte. They're just more of a kind of in-the-know fan journal, but still nice to see that that name won't go away. Another name that has been emerging though is Ibanez from Roma, Brazilian international, 23 years old. Really, really good talent. You know, really fast, super strong, very talented in the air, good on the ball, and available for about 30 million, despite him having a release fee of 70 million. I think Roma are struggling financially, and they had plans of selling the striker. Why does his name escape me right now? English striker, came from Chelsea. Let me know in the comments, you know who I'm talking about. My mind's gone blank. But they're going to sell him this summer, but he's now injured, so it's less likely they can get good money for him or any money at all. And so they have to turn their attentions to their other star players in order to raise funds for whatever budgets, whatever their intentions are this summer. To me, Ibanez is a really good player. The concern for me is that he's right-footed. It's not a problem necessarily. I don't want people to think that I think that if you're playing on the left, you have to have a left foot. You don't. It's only a problem if it creates an imbalance. If the fact that you're playing right-footed on the left side means that you can't distribute the ball as correctly, or that your weight is shifted more likely one direction than the other, which offers access to the person who's running with the ball at you in a certain direction. I've seen more times than not people that are played out of position with the wrong foot as their dominant foot struggle. But he has always been a left-sided, right-footed centre-back, so I'm guessing it's not really a problem for him. Where it might be a problem for him coming to Tottenham is that for Roma, like Mourinho pivots from a back four to a back three, and most of the minutes that he gets is when he's playing on the left side of a back three. He has played when they play with a back four, but most of the minutes he gets is with a back three. He's very good at it. But also, Roma and Jose, they don't play anything like the same style of football as Postecoglou. So the question mark is whether he can adapt to a high line and the press. And my answer is I don't know. But my gut instinct tells me he can. He's got all of the physical attributes to be able to do it. He's very good in the air. He can turn very quickly. He's got good acceleration and good top speed. And I've said to you before many times, we need players. We need at least one player in the back four for Tottenham who has enough pace about him to get us out of trouble in the situations that will occur frequently this season coming, where balls get put over the top or situations happen in the transition where we lose the ball, someone makes a mistake and the ball is put behind us. We need someone who's got the pace to recover, and Ibanez definitely has that. So, very interesting player. For me personally, I'm not sure I want him to come in to be our number one left-sided player. I think there's a little bit too much risk and kind of unknowns with regarding his ability to pivot into the high line and the requirements of a Postecoglou system relative to a Jose system for him to come straight in and immediately take up the spot. I have other players that I would prioritise in that role. But if it does happen that way, I'm still cool with it, as long as we also go out and get another left-sided centre-back. And as you know, I'm a big fan of Max Kilman from Wolves. I'm also a big fan of Lukeba. I'm a big fan of Laporte. Big fan of Edmund Tapsoba. There's lots of players out there on a spectrum of cost and a spectrum of experience that I think will be excellent to come into Tottenham. And I just can't wait to find out which ones we actually land on. Moving on with the conversation, guys, there is just a little bit more news about James Maddison, that Postecoglou apparently has come into the club and immediately told Daniel Levy, I want this guy, he's the guy I need. He's asked for him. Again, if that's true or not, we don't know, but that, I guess, is the basis of why the links are so strong between Tottenham and James Maddison. Newcastle are obviously very much still chasing for him, and the rumours are that James Maddison's wife has a preference to live in London rather than Newcastle, and so it will be interesting to see if there's truth to it. It'll be interesting to see how much pull Tottenham has relative to a new, pending Goliath in the Premier League, which is Newcastle United, with all that they have to offer. The plan, the philosophy, the bright future, the Champions League football, the money, etc. Be interesting to see. Maybe we'll get some sort of kind of baseline here as to whether or not Tottenham are still as attractive a club as we would hope we are, but a lot of people think that we probably aren't. So we'll see what happens there. It's also interesting, I don't know whether or not any of the top four clubs, like would Manchester United, Arsenal, would Liverpool, Manchester City, would any of them turn their attentions to James Maddison? I'm not sure. And consequently, how do you feel about him as a player? Is he right for the club? Is he someone that does everything we need him to? Does he have an attitude? Is he injury prone? Look, I'm not that excited about James Maddison. I think he's a very good player, but I'll of course yield and concede to Postecoglou's requirements. If he wants him, he's good enough for me. But as a football fan, I'm not blown away by the prospect of spending £50 million on him when we've got so much more to do, and probably so little budget to do it with. Speaking about budgets, Daniel Levy yesterday was talking to the fan committee. I forget what they call it, the inaugural fan committee, where Tottenham fans get to ask questions of Daniel Levy and the board, and hopefully bridging gaps between the club and the fan base, etc. Remains to be seen what will come of any of it, but some of the questions that were asked and some of the answers that were given were quite interesting. And one of the answers that was given was about the appointment of Postecoglou. And he said, Daniel Levy said, we picked Ange because of his, I'm paraphrasing here, I haven't got the quote in front of me, but essentially he said, because of his suitability with regarding playing attractive football, and because of his recognition of the importance of the academy and developing from the academy. The first thing I would say is that if Daniel Levy is now acknowledging or holding up in the air some admission that attractive football and academy is two very large, very high on the priority list assets or essential criteria when selecting a manager, then why is that the case now but wasn't the case for the last 4 years? Jose Mourinho, Nuno and Conte are not managers who prioritise attractive football. They are not managers who prioritise the academy. So either this is a theme that's been consistent, and yet Daniel Levy went 180 on it for the previous 4 years, which I think is probably the truth, or it's suddenly become a new philosophy, and yet they are speaking about it as though it is and has always been part of the furniture. Now, I'm okay with it being part of the furniture. Like, I like the idea of playing attractive football as the cornerstone of a managerial philosophy. I want that to be the case for all future managers. I'm also very okay with the idea of promoting excuse me, the academy. I think it's really important, and I love seeing academy players break through. The trouble is we haven't seen enough of them. There hasn't been really any breakthrough talents emerging of any real note over the last few years. A couple here and there, but nothing to really get excited about. And part of the reason why is because we lose some of our best talent because of the inability to show and demonstrate access to the first team. If Mundell leaves, that will be a kick in the gut because he is highly rated. Dylan Marcandy was highly rated before he went to Blackburn for 500 grand. And there's plenty of other players that, you know, maybe we could have signed but didn't. Maybe we have signed and will lose because of the lacking access to first team football. We shall see what happens with regards that over the coming months and years with Postecoglou. And look, there are some players in there right now that I think are exciting enough with a bit of development, excuse my coughing, to emerge. Alfie Dorrington, wonderfully talented centre-back. Maybe we'll see some more of him from in terms of minutes for the coming months over the Postecoglou tenure. But I just find it very strange that Daniel Levy would kind of make this promotion of thesis or ethos as though it's a common theme, and yet all of his actions regarding managers in the last 5 years have been a 180 on that. Another demonstration of his the gap between what goes on in his mind and the things that we see in reality. One particular transfer news that is out today, though, that does kind of tie into that potential theme is West Bromwich Albion under-18 superstar, allegedly, Jamal Jamou. I've never heard of him before, but he's been playing for the under-17s England, under-18s England. He's been playing for the West Brom under-21s. Apparently he's super highly rated midfielder. People are saying he's the next Jude Bellingham. I don't know what that means, but and apparently Tottenham are very much interested in trying to get ahead of Manchester City, get ahead of United and get ahead of Chelsea, all of whom are currently trying to persuade him to come to Tottenham. That's right, come to their clubs. I'm all for it. if we are going to prioritise the youth system and the development, then of course we need to have the best talents in there that we can then work with to be able to then bring them into the first team. But what I would say is, you know, I don't know what that means for the transfer budgets. The other thing that Daniel Levy said in the fan committee was this idea that Tottenham's board haven't backed managers over the last 5 years or whatever is wrong. We always back the managers. We're actually just paying the consequences right now, so to speak, for the mistakes in that regard. So again, difficult to kind of figure out what he's saying. Is he saying that the mistakes were on the board for buying the wrong players? Is he saying that the mistakes were in the manager for selecting the wrong players? Is he saying that we have backed it and the results have been so poor that we're actually no longer interested really in doing that backing to the same team, and that is the reason why we're going to be prioritising and promoting from the youth team more under the Postecoglou system? Is that the reason why we got Postecoglou in the first place? Because his demands, his requirements are less pushy when it comes to transfer budgets? Or is it just an acknowledgement that we need to do better with how we spend our money? I think that we are going to be spending money in the summer. It'll be interesting to see, and it remains to be seen, how much money we're going to spend, guys. But we're going to talk about that on a live stream in just a few hours' time. Check us out Saturday, early afternoon on the Spurs Talk Show. Guys, I'm going to leave you there. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.